Organizational Learning, a Theory of Action Perspective. Written by Chrysagiris and Donald Schoen. Born in 1923, Chrysagiris was an American business theorist, professor emeritus at Harvard Business School, and a thought leader at Monitor Group, a strategy consulting practice now known as Monitor Deloitte. Agiris studied psychology at Clark University, where he met Kurt Lewin. He earned his master's degree at Kansas University and his PhD from Cornell, under William F. White, on a thesis on behavior in organizations. Dr. Agiris began his academic career at Yale, where he worked under E. Whit Bakke and eventually became a professor of management science. 20 years later, 1971, he moved to Harvard as a professor of education and organizational behavior. He's known as the co-founder of organization development with Richard Beckhardt, Edgar Schein, and Warren Bennis, and is especially known for his seminal work in learning organizations. Donald Allen Schoen was born in Boston in 1930. He completed a bachelor's degree at Yale University, then went on to complete his master's and doctorate at Harvard University. His thesis focused on Dewey's theory of inquiry. Schoen started his career in a large consulting firm. In 1968, he became a visiting professor at MIT and stayed on after being appointed as the Ford Professor of Urban Studies and Education. He remained there until his death in 1997. Over these decades, he collaborated with Chris Argyris and produced key insights into how organizations develop, adapt, learn, or fail. This is the first of two books they wrote on organizational learning. Organizational Learning, a Theory of Action Perspective, was published in 1978 and was the first to clearly define the concept of organizational learning. Their seminal work was built upon by Rich Seiert and James March in their book Defining the Theory of the Firm, and later by John Dutton and Annie Thomas in their work on learning curves. This was an important time for industry in the U.S. The quality of American goods was dropping as compared to goods that could be imported from Japan and Europe, which posed a huge threat to the future of American industry. Some of the key concepts and ideas the authors present are a definition of organization, the concept of organizational learning. They explain why a normative theory of intervention is a good place to start in the creation of an organizational learning theory. They demonstrate theories of action and introduce the ideas of single loop and double loop learning. So what is an organization? They define an organization as more than just a collection of individuals that can be understood solely in terms of the social psychology of group behavior. Organizations begin when members devise procedures for making decisions in the name of the collective, delegating to individuals the authority to act for the collective, setting boundaries between the collective and the rest of the world. In organizations, individuals decide and act for the collective by virtue of the rules for decision, delegation, and membership. When the members of the collectivity have created such rules, they have organized. Organizations are not just business entities either. The authors say organizational learning occurs when learning agents' discoveries, inventions, and evaluations are embedded in organizational memory. They must be encoded in the individual images and the shared maps of organizational theory and use, which will guide individual members in the future. The normative theory of intervention. Well, normative theory is the theory of how to make decisions. The normative theory of intervention focuses specifically on how decisions on making change are made. Since change is necessary in organizational learning, the authors thought this was a good place to start. An organization's theory of action is a complex system of norms, strategies, and assumptions. It includes the organization's patterns of communication and control, its ways of allocating resources to goals, and its provisions for self-maintenance, that is, for rewarding and punishing individual performance, for constructing career ladders, and regulating the rate at which individuals climb them, and for recruiting new members and instructing them in the ways of the organization. An organization's espoused theory of action is the answer a member offers when asked how they would behave under certain circumstances. This is the theory they communicate to others. The theory in use is the theory that actually governs the member's actions, which may or may not be compatible with their espoused theory, and the individual may not even be aware of the incompatibility between the two. Single and double loop learning. Single loop learning occurs when some sort of error or mistake is identified and a solution or correction is put in place, allowing the organization to achieve its present or short-term objectives. If policies and/or procedures are not changed, the error could occur again. Many times, single loop learning occurs with an individual or small group, and the greater organization does not benefit from this learning. Double loop learning occurs when some sort of error or mistake is identified and a solution or correction is put in place, allowing the organization to achieve its present or short-term goals. And the organization policies and/or procedures are changed, enabling other members of the organization to benefit from the learning while helping to eliminate the error from occurring in the future. The concept of organizational learning currently plays a vital role in the survival of organizations in the face of today's rapidly changing economy. If organizations do not learn from their mistakes and change with the times, they are doomed. At the very heart of award programs that define organizational excellence lies a measure of organizational learning. For example, the Baldrige Excellence Framework identifies organizational learning as one of its core competencies. Thank you for your attention. I highly recommend the work of these authors if you have an interest in organizational learning, organizational climate, and organizational culture.